Hello and welcome to the script narration of the 5th chapter in the Final Legacy series, where we will be now delving into the second arc, the Red Fang arc. This arc was widely praised by the test audience that read it, so be sure to stick through to the end. Even though we may start it off a bit calmly, you're in for one hell of a ride with this one. So, let's begin. Chapter 5, Welcome Home. The chapter starts off 1 week after the battle against Gao. Makoto is at the airport saying his farewells to Nori and his dad. Nori promises to watch all of his matches and cheer for Makoto, even proclaiming that he's going to master the HMS system by the time Makoto gets back. As for Tyson, he makes Makoto give his word to take good care of Dragoon, not to mention bring the trophy back home. Makoto vows he'll do both as he boards the plane, waving goodbye. The first person he meets as he's stepping on the plane is Rin, sitting by the window with 2 empty seats in front of her and 1 beside her. Rin, does that mean the coach is not here yet? Rin answers Makoto unenthusiastically. Nope. Makoto jumps to the seat in front of her. That does it. I'm claiming the window seat. I see you're as energetic as ever, aren't you, Makoto? A voice says, coming from down the plane. It's Kenny standing there, with Gao glaring nonchalantly behind him. Makoto stares at him with a big smile. Coach Kenny! Suddenly, his face changes to one of surprise as he sees Gao. Whoa! Gao, I didn't expect to see you here. You going on vacation or something? Gao answers, with an irritated expression as Kenny explains. No, Makoto. He's joining our team as the 3rd member. Makoto reaches his hand out to him, as if wanting Gao to shake it. No way! I never imagined you'd accept such an offer after I beat you in the final match and all. Gao glares at him angrily. You're right. I wouldn't have accepted until the coach told me your victory was a fluke and that this team would have no chance to win without me. Kenny sweats and smiles nervously. That's not exactly how I put it. Makoto looks disappointed. Why are you selling me out, Chief? You know I can beat this guy any day. Gao becomes furious, bringing up his launcher. Oh yeah? Wanna try? Makoto puts his blade to the launcher, aiming at Gao while standing on his seat. Bring it on. Kenny nervously stands in the middle, trying to calm them down, when suddenly, someone yells out. Stop it! It's Rin, yelling from her seat, looking crazy mad, making the whole plane stare. Just sit down on your seat and stop acting like children. All 3 of you. Kenny, Gao and Makoto all sit down instantly due to the embarrassing scene. Gao facepalms, realising how embarrassing the situation is. Makoto seems bitter, whispering while looking back. Well, he started it. Gao gives Makoto a death glare as Rin lectures them both. It doesn't matter who started what, the fact remains. We're gonna have to learn to work together from this point on, if we're ever gonna be able to win this. Kenny smiles proudly at her wisdom, adding, Well said, Rin. That's exactly what I was going to... Rin's eyes shine up and she smiles arrogantly while commenting, By the way, everyone already knows that I'm the most skilled blader on this team, so why argue? Both Gao and Makoto turn red with anger and scream out in sync, No way! Rin looks away arrogantly, going, as Kenny facepalms, thinking, What have I gotten myself into? The plane rises as Rin, Gao and Makoto are arguing between each other. Who's the best? Kenny is working on his laptop. Will you kids, please stop arguing so I can focus on getting some work done, Kenny complains. Makoto leans in, filled with curiosity. During the past week, I've made a major effort to gather as much data as I can about each and every one of you to determine your strengths and weaknesses. Kenny brings up a screen with all 3 bladers combined with stats as he continues. From what I've been able to read, Gao is the one with the most raw power. Gao sends an arrogant smile towards Makoto. What did I tell you? When suddenly, Kenny adds in, Sadly, he's also the one suffering from the greatest champion's fever and has dropped the most from the level he was at before leaving the Abbey. Gao looks distraught as Makoto mocks him. He got you there. Kenny continues. From a purely strength-based standpoint, Makoto is the weakest. Rin giggles and Gao smirks sadistically, watching the pride shatter within Makoto as he gets awestruck. What? How can I be the weakest when I beat the strongest on the team? Something's wrong with your computer. As Makoto tries to take the computer from Kenny, Gal chimes in. Face it, you're the weak link. Kenny moves the laptop from Makoto's paws and answers. It's very simple. You have gained a very advanced and powerful attack, but you are also too far dependent on your strategy to win that final match. And while you do have much potential for growth, we cannot expect you to bring out a strategy like that in each and every battle you're in. That's not a realistic way to enter the tournament. Kenny opens up a file. That's why I've set up a training program to work on each of your shortcomings to bring you all to the next level. Rin gets up and looks too. Rin, you could easily be the most experienced blade on the team, since you're the only one that's fought in the finals before. Makoto gets surprised, jumping up from his seat looking back. That's amazing! Why didn't you tell me? Rin looks nervous, as Kenny continues. Your greatest weakness is that you have dropped down from the speed you had during last year's tournament. Again, most likely due to Champion's Fever. Makoto looks puzzled. What's this Champion's Fever you keep talking about? Kenny smiles. Champion's Fever is what it's called when a blader gets out of shape after advancing too quickly. When you're not battling constantly on the same level, it's easy to become relaxed and arrogant. It's most likely what caused the downfall of Taiki, for example. Gao looks up. So in other words, Taiki used to be stronger in last year's tournament? Kenny answers. Exactly. Rin needs to get her speed back. Gao needs to focus on physical training to get back in shape, while Makoto should spend all of his time on direct battle practice until he learns the blade on a much higher level without using his Storm Hammer attack. Kenny looks determined. There's currently about 70 different teams reaching for the top, so we cannot afford to slack off for 1 second if we want to make it. Makoto's jaw drops. 70 teams? How long are we going to be in this tournament? Until we're 50? Kenny answers calmly. Don't worry, we won't fight all of them. They're divided up, but it'll be 18 different teams in the Asian section, all representing different countries. I think we can do it, but remember, sooner or later, we've got to face off against the team that defeated Taiki in his prime. Rin's old team. The White Tigers. Makoto turns around all happy. You hear that, Rin? We're gonna face off against your old team. Rin seems concerned, looking out the window. Yeah, I heard. Meanwhile, in the corner of the plane, the random character that watched the battle in the previous chapter, always looking gloomy, bored and uninterested. He's now sitting in his new outfit, running the same depressing expression, reading a newspaper, and on the front page it says, Missing champions. The Tokyo Blades have disappeared. There could be a traditional shadow scene of the new team landing, but this scene might be cut. It's going to involve Kenny saying he has to leave to charge his computer, because where they're going, there's no electricity, and definitely no Wi-Fi. This is going to cause Makoto to freak out. Anyway, Kenny comes back with a fully charged laptop, and they head out for their bus. Where are we going anyway? Makoto asks. Kenny smiles back at him saying, We're going to the White Tiger Hills to train, of course. Rin and Makoto call out, White Tiger Hills? Rin looks slightly uncomfortable, while Gao is unaffected. In the next shot, we see the odd character from the plane putting on a hat sheltering him from the sun. He's wearing yet another outfit and is randomly riding around on a donkey by the sidewalk with an extremely demotivated face as the BBA team drive straight past him. Meanwhile, inside the bus, Kenny brings up a bunch of papers he has printed out. We'll be up against some strong competition this year. The tournament is cut off in 2 sections. Half the teams will be up against the White Tigers, then the other half, there's us. The winners of each block will fight against each other for the right to advance to the finals, Kenny states. Makoto leans up over the seat asking, So we have to beat a bunch of small fries before we get a shot at the real thing? Shouldn't be too hard. I wouldn't be too overconfident, Rin points out with conviction. What do you mean? Makoto asks. Kenny agrees. Rin is right. Don't let the Champion's Fever get to you already. Every team has earned their spot in this tournament. True, some haven't mastered the HMS system since it's very hard, but many opponents are really strong even without it. You'll probably encounter 1 or 2 bit beasts or HMS specialists, but Gal sits silently, crossed-armed and closed eyes, as Kenny continues talking. The most dangerous type of blader we still have to watch out for are the switchers. They are powerful bladers that live in regions where competition is severe, such as the Balkov sections. Thus, they travel to less challenging nations, fighting weaker opponents so they can advance and fight in the finals. Gal, for example, would be considered a switcher. Makoto turns to Gal, asking with a surprised look, "Wait, does that mean he couldn't even make the team where he's from?" Gal gets mad. "Watch it." Kenny continues, "Not necessarily. Some nations do selections rather than preliminaries, like China, Russia, and the US. Makoto asks, "Isn't that a bit unfair? Doesn't that mean even if you win, you won't advance?" Kenny answers, "Personally, I consider it a superior system to Japan's. When you do selections, you can consider all aspects that made them win, and it prevents bladers like that Ren guy you fought from ever becoming representatives." Gal glares at Makoto evilly. "It also prevents lucky one-shots from biting off more than they can chew." Makoto gets offended. "Hey, that was a low blow, take it back." Gal challenges him. "Make me." They both stare at each other angrily as Rin sighs. "Just stop." Kenny ignores them and finishes his explanation. "All I'm trying to say is that you should all be on your guard. Despite all three of you being pretty good bladers, there is a very diverse competition, and anything can happen." Makoto looks at Kenny. "But why are there so many teams? I've never heard about anything like this from Dad." Kenny sighs, explaining further. "Well, after Bega's great fall, it took quite a long time for the BBA to re-emerge, as it had to go back to a grassroots movement. Meanwhile, in its absence, countless smaller companies with the same business plan popped up everywhere, country by country. The PPB grew larger, and it all boils down to more bladers and more countries participating and wanting their own representation. It was only thanks to Thala establishing the Abbey and Robert sponsoring Mr. Dickinson that the BBA is still a thing in many nations outside of Japan." Kenny suddenly looks shocked and notices where they are. "Oh no! Stop the bus!" They stop the bus and step out into the middle of nowhere with their bags. The bus drives away as Makoto calls after it. "Our bus?" Kenny smiles. "It's okay, we've arrived at our destination." He points them straight into the wilderness with the mountains in the distance. "It's only about 10 or 15 miles that way." Makoto is shocked. Rin and Gal walk past him calmly, and Kenny has already taken the lead, walking over the wilderness terrain. "You've got to be kidding me," Makoto says as Gal silences him. "Shut up. Just come on." They walk up along the mountain. Kenny looks sweaty but carries on. Gal and Rin seeming unaffected. In the back of the trail, Makoto is dragging along, all worn out. "Are we there yet?" "Just a little longer," Kenny adds, with a smile, trying to hide that he's exhausted too. Makoto carries on, all worn out. "Why couldn't we have taken a cab?" Kenny wipes his brow, staying positive. "Be glad we got to take the bus. The first time I got here, there wasn't even a road." As they walk through the forest, Gal looks around and slows down for a bit, to which Rin slows down too, and asks him in surprise, "What is it?" Gal stops and turns his sights towards the path behind them. "I just got this strange feeling that we're being followed." Makoto pants, dragging his bag. "Come on, nobody would be stupid enough to willingly volunteer to this torment." Gal turns around and keeps on walking as he's thinking, "I guess it was just my imagination." Kenny stops in surprise as a man stands in front of them in their path. "So, this is the new team I've heard so much about? BBA Legacy?" the man says. "BBA Legacy?" Makoto asks with a confused face. Kenny looks back. "It's our team name." Makoto gets sad. "You picked a name without asking me?" Then he thinks it through. It does sound cool though." The man standing in front of them wears long hair and smiles, saying, "Long time no see." Kenny smiles. "Far too long, old friend," thinking, "It's great to be back, Ray." Ray, who puts his old Trigger MS blade to the launcher. "You know the rules. I can't let you pass until you prove your worth. If you fail this test, you are not permitted to enter, and I have no choice but to turn you back. Makoto gets crushed. Turn back? Rin walks ahead with great confidence, putting her blade to her launcher. Father, I've gotten way stronger since I left, and now is my chance to prove it. Ray smiles proudly while raising his launcher. I wouldn't have accepted anything less. Makoto continues to be in confusion. Father? Wait, that means you're Ray! You're actually the Ray? Gal walks past Makoto, raising his launcher too, thinking, this will be a worthy opponent, no doubt. Kenny opens the laptop, filming to study their progress. Don't hold back, kids. You're gonna need to go up all out straight from the start with this one. After they stare each other down, Ray smirks and rips his blade, screaming, let it rip! The blade lands and causes winds to erupt around all the trees surrounding them, spinning a huge cloud of dust from the spin rate alone. Both Rin and Gal rip their blades together. Let it rip! The blades land together on each side of Trigger MS. Rin goes first. Trigger! She screams as the white tiger rises from its blade. Gal wastes no time either. Go Dronza! Releasing his bit at full force. Rin gathers the claws around her blade. White tiger slash! Gal gathers the flame strings around his blade. Spiral furnace! They both charge forth with all the might they have for Trigger MS, with Dronza and Trigger on each side. You're good. Ray compliments while studying them. But not good enough. Ray finishes as Trigger MS disappears within an instant before their attack, and they end up hitting each other instead. Ray's blade moves away and bounces on a rock, flying up above them. Go! Trigger MS! Ray calls out, falling down and finishing them both out with just one shot. As both blades fly away and have stopped spinning, Rin and Gal seem crushed as Makoto comments, completely stunned. No way! Makoto raises his launcher in desperation. Not a chance I'm going back. Ray looks straight at Makoto thinking, those intense eyes, they remind me of someone I used to know back in the day. Then he asks calmly, so you're Makoto? I'm the one that's gonna beat you! Makoto screams, and then rips his blade intensely. Go Dragoon! Dragoon appears from the blade and it starts to spin circles around Trigger MS, building up wind and power as Ray stays in the center calmly. Makoto raises his fist firmly. Dad didn't train me for an entire week just so I could turn back here. I hope you're ready for the Storm Hammer! Dragoon charges forth, full force. Ray's eyes open wide as he dodges the attack. Makoto's eyes open wide too, but in horror. Go! Ray shouts as Trigger strikes into the side of Dragoon after spinning beside it. In a mere instant, it knocks away Dragoon into a tree, breaking it. That was an interesting special move you have there, Ray says, standing with his arms crossed, seeming not to care that the tree is about to fall down towards them. The Blade Breaker kids look up in surprise at the falling tree behind them. Suddenly, two blades fly forth. Galleon! Galzy! Two voices call out as the blades knock the huge chunk away mid-air, making it roll down the hillsides below with great ferocity. I was wondering when you two would reveal yourselves. Ray looks up into the forest, where two bladers are standing in a tree with the sun shining through them. Tai, Chow. The two blades land in front of the BBA team. Makoto looks at them. What the? The boy, looking a lot like Lee, smiles with crossed arms. We'd never miss an opportunity to test ourselves against you, Master Ray. The other blader that's more muscular looking nods at his teammate. Tai, I'll go first. Tai responds, show them what you're made of, Chow. His blade charges forth for Trigger MS. Go! Galzy! The old Galzy bit charges forth and the blade hits into Trigger MS, trying to take it down. Makoto feels stunned, thinking, he can actually fight him head on? The blade charges with sparks as Ray stands there with his arms crossed, not moving an inch. Chow jumps down from the tree, calling out, give your all, Galzy! The blade spins, losing spinning power, and is eventually knocked away as Ray calmly says, not bad, Chow. You've gotten stronger. Now it's my turn! Tai screams and swings his arms. Galleon! Galleon charges forth, pushing Trigger MS back just a bit as Ray opens his eyes. Huh? Kenny studies from the computer, thinking, wow! What incredible attack power! Trigger MS regains control as Ray looks serious. I'm done playing around. Trigger MS, go! Ray swings his arm down and strikes Galleon away instantly. Tai jumps down, catching his blade mid-air and lands on the ground, falling calmly. Gao smirks deviously, glaring at him, and Ray raises his blade back into his hand. Very good. You all may now pass and enter the village. Makoto is amazed. That's incredible! What bit beast were you using when you have that much power? Kenny steps forth. Actually, at this moment, he isn't using any bit beast. Makoto gets freaked out. You have to be kidding me. Kenny looks at Ray with a fond smile and says, Glad to see you're as strong as ever. Ray smiles back. I'm glad to have you back here as well, Kenny. Ray turns around with his hair flowing in the wind, walking calmly as he says, We should head back to the village so your team can begin their training. And then, we could get some time to talk. Rin picks up a blade, feeling disappointed. Kenny moves along, answering, For sure. Tai turns his head back while they walk, watching Makoto pick up his blade with a serious expression. As they reach the village, Gao starts his training by lifting weights. Rin is in the jungle, practicing her speed. She runs while spinning her blade beside her as she's jumping from branch to branch, determined to find her perfect form. Meanwhile, on the training grounds, Makoto is fighting one of the trainees in full determination. The blades are fighting fiercely as Makoto is thinking, These white tiger guys are really something else. Even their trainees are almost as strong as Ren was. Dragoon moves back and Makoto looks proud. But after Dad's training to control Dragoon, I'm on a whole nother level. Go Dragoon! Makoto calls out and knocks the guy out. In the main hut, Ray and Kenny are sitting down drinking tea, talking about memories and previous events. Ray's in the middle of conversation. It all started with Mistel. After Mistel joined the clan, the elders became more open-minded to the idea of letting outsiders in, despite going against Jian Bing's original philosophy of isolation. Even so, I sometimes still get the feeling that the changes made are really starting to push their limit as to what's acceptable to the White Tiger Council. Kenny drinks his tea and looks on. It's a good thing you and Lee are in the council then. Ray continues curiously. Yeah. By the way, how's Tyson? It's been a really long time since I heard from him. He's doing well, but he's really busy working in his dojo. He tends to avoid involving himself with Beyblading as much as possible these days. The only time he stepped out was when when Makoto advanced in the preliminaries. Other than that, I don't really know much more than you do, Kenny says. Ray asks calmly, And what about Max? How's Max? Kenny looks at Ray with a hint of seriousness. Max is doing fine. But before I forget, I wanted to ask you something important. Ray seems surprised. Ask me about what? It's about Rin. Kenny looks serious. Ray, why did Rin become a switcher? With Gao, it makes sense since he's from Balkov Abbey, and the competition is so tough it might take years before you can even make the team. But with Rin, it just makes no sense at all. She clearly has the ability to join the team. So why switch over to Japan? It makes no sense. And she won't tell me anything when I ask her. Ray sips his tea silently. Meanwhile, Rin has reached a large cave by the mountainside, and she walks inside. As she steps in, there's a human structure there, and stone walls with carvings and other various ancient art. She speaks to herself while walking up to one of the ancient statues. Jian the Wise, the great founder of our clan. I wonder what he would have done in my situation. If you wanted to believe the legends, he most likely would have closed himself off and meditated on it, a voice in the distance of the internal temple says. Rin looks up towards the statue sculptures up by the ceiling, and calls out with glee, Mistel! There, Mistel lies relaxing. Glad to see you're finally back. Mistel jumps down gracefully from statue to statue in his usual style. He lands down in front of her, rising up. I sense that Drigger has finally accepted you while you're away on your travels. Rin turns around and looks down in disappointment. It won't make much of a difference anyway, once the elders decide to. Meanwhile, Kenny looks surprised. So that's how it is? Yes. When it comes to choosing the future leader, they're very strict, despite what I think or want, Ray states calmly. Since Tai is the strongest, they have chosen him to be the inheritor of the White Tiger bit. Ray finishes as Tai is walking with the setting sun shining over the training field. On the corner, Gary is training some students, counting down. 3, 2, 1. Let it rip! They rip their blades, fighting and sparkling violently, while Tai heads towards Makoto where he's still training. Makoto just defeats another one of his opponents, as Tai states, "Nice form you have there." Makoto turns around in surprise. "Well, thanks. Tai, was it right? I don't believe we've been formally introduced. I'm Makoto," he says, reaching out his hand. Tai looks at him unaffected, saying, "I know very well who you are. I've heard a lot about you after your surprising victory in the Japanese preliminaries." Makoto blushes and puts his hand behind his head. "Oh really?" Tai brings out his blade, Galleon MS. "Perhaps you'd like a bigger challenge than all these trainees." Makoto gets excited. "For sure! That blade looks awesome." "Let's do it." They assume positions and for some reason, the kids start gathering around, watching the battle. Makoto looks confused as to why they're getting smug. "Guess I've become quite popular." Tai looks determined, raising his launcher. They're all here to watch the champion battle. Makoto raises his launcher, feeling flattered. "You're too kind." "I wasn't talking about you." Tai looks harsh as he rips his blade hastily. "Let it rip!" Makoto rips his blade too and thinks, what is he talking about? Dragoon charges forth with sparks beneath it, as does Galleon. Eventually, they face off in the middle, with the Dragoon sliding off and Galleon chasing after it. "You're pretty strong." "But let's see just how strong." Makoto makes a move with his arm. "Dragoon attack!" Dragoon charges down and they hit with tons of sparks and then separate. Makoto looks proud. "Not bad, huh?" Tai smiles. "Not bad for an amateur." The two blades face off again as Tai keeps on talking. "Now, why don't you show me that special move of yours, as a courtesy from one champion to another?" Makoto gets really surprised. "Champion? Hold on, you're the Asian champion." Galleon starts pushing Dragoon away and eventually it flies up into the air. "Dragoon! Sky drop!" Makoto uses the sky drop in desperation before his blade flies out of the stadium and Dragoon lands on the very edge going inside again as the background crowd starts shouting Tai's name. Tai looks angry. "Come on kid, why won't you do it? As long as you refuse your special techniques, your chances of winning this match are 0. "I'm sorry Kenny, but I have no choice," Makoto thinks, then raises his arm into the air. That does it. Dragoon! Dragoon charges out of its Beyblade, and Tai looks up in amazement at the glory of the infamous bit. Dragoon spins around in circles, building up the momentum, then charges forth with Galleon. Makoto holds his fist, striking forward. "It's time to end this. Storm Hammer!" Dragoon starts attacking Galleon strongly, actually pushing it back with each hit. "Two can play at that game," Tai says confidently, and calls out his bit. "Go Galleon!" Galleon releases from the blade, and the two bit beasts start battling it out. Tai does his special move, Dark Thunder, Ultimate Lightning. Galleon charges forth with rays of lightning beating Dragoon back step by step, despite the Storm Hammer state. "Hang in there Dragoon!" Makoto calls out. Tai points his fist forth and calls out, "Galleon, final attack!" Galleon shines up with power, and the two blades hit each other. Galleon strikes through the windshield and sends Dragoon flying, making Makoto fall back with the impact. Tai stands calmly and raises the blade back into his hand. "I wanted to test myself before the upcoming competition. After all the rumours about you, I must say, I was expecting a lot more." Makoto crawls up to his blade and picks it up slowly. Tai starts walking away calmly. "You fought well, but the likes of you are never going to make it in this competition. My advice for you is to pack it up and go home. You can still try again next year when you're stronger." Makoto picks up his blade and smiles cockily. "Thank you." Tai turns around in curiosity. "What? You're thanking me?" Makoto struggles up to his feet, looking confident. "No. I thank you for giving me a new goal. Now that I've battled you, I know how much stronger I have to become to fulfill my dream and win this tournament." Makoto points ahead at Tai, proclaiming another bold statement. "I vow that by the time we reach the final battle, I would have become strong enough to take you down, even without the Storm Hammer." The crowd looks very surprised by that statement. "Good luck with that, kid." He walks away calmly and arrogantly. "I'll wait for you in the final match then." Makoto smiles confidently and adds, "You bet you will." Meanwhile, in the distance within the branches of one of the trees, The depressed looking boy from before is watching from the shadows, and in his hand shines something that looks a bit like a bit chip. Okay, so that was chapter 5. We know at this point it seems a bit too close to the original White Tiger arc, but this is really going to be completely different, so have faith in us and stay tuned for the next chapter where things really start to heat up. It's a chapter you not want to miss in a million years, and if you want to help us develop this project, join the group in the description. We need both narrators and artists at the moment, or if you have some other skill we could use, just hit us up. Anyway, until then, subscribe and stay tuned for the next chapter coming soon.